15% of South Africans read books, and a mere 5% of those who read to their children. This has been revealed in a study conducted by the South African Development Council, the conveners of National Book Week. Now, to mitigate these troubling statistics, National Book Week, that officially kicks off today, has introduced the hashtag campaigns. The one is hashtag buy a book. Well, books will be sold at Exclusive Books for 20 Rand to encourage a culture of reading here in South Africa. To tell us more, well, we are joined in studio today by one of our local authors who's lending her voice to the cause, Zelda Le Grange. Good morning, Zelda. And then, of course, Mr. Benjamin Trisk. He's the CEO at Exclusive Books. Good morning to you.
Morning to you, Urban.
Thanks for helping us. Zelda, your involvement, the numbers are staggering, aren't they? But your involvement in National Book Week, just get our heads around it.
Well, I think even from my perspective, my book is an easy read. It's sold very well in South Africa and across the world. But despite the fact that it's an easy read, you know, if you look at the statistics, not many people read in South Africa, despite the fact that it's an easy read, as I say, you know. So we need to do something to encourage people, but also to make books accessible to people. We find with social media dominating our worlds, very few people spend their data on actually reading. So we need to bring about a change in culture with people, because, you know, we can't all travel, but we can all read, and it's like taking a journey, a virtual journey, and we need to open our horizons by reading.
Mr. Trisk, 20 Rand a book at Exclusive Books, the buy a book campaign, that's very generous.
Well, it is done for a specific reason, and as I've said on countless public platforms, I'm constantly concerned about the general price of books. So what we've done for National Book Week is that we've made available 9 titles across children's and adult that will talk to families about leisure reading, because the real issue is that people don't read for leisure and they don't read enough. And there are too many homes without leisure books. And moreover, the statistics that we have about reading to children is something that's replicated in the UK and elsewhere. In the UK, they found that possibly 1 in 5 parents reads to their children. Now, those numbers are just appalling.
That's absolutely staggering. I can't believe it that you know, less or more than 50% of the homes in South Africa don't have a book in them at all, which is staggering. But let's talk about what you've just gone through. You've gone into the world of writing books, and you're an author now, internationally published author at that. But tell us about how better can we in South Africa support our authors in order to make the entire process a little bit more sustainable?
Well, first of all, we need to buy their books. You know, for any reputable publisher to publish someone's book, they need to know that the book is going to sell. That's not going to happen unless the public buys South African authors. There's so many stories to be told, and I think I'm an example of this. You know, I'm not a acclaimed author. This is a simple story that I put in writing, and despite that, you know, the book has done very well. So there's many other people with more interesting stories, and they need to be published. We need to take the South African story abroad, but it's not going to happen unless we ourselves, the South Africans, buy the South African authors first, and the African authors.
Your hopes for this week, but not just for this week, for going forward with the kinds of processes that are being put into place now?
Yeah, but there are a number of interesting statistics. Make no mistake, Zelda's book has been a phenomenon. I'm not sure what you've sold in English. I think it's over 40,000 copies. In Afrikaans, you've also sold a huge number of books. One of our problems is that we don't have sufficient books in the vernacular. Now, at our Melrose store, for instance, where we have a growing children's market, in fact, nationally, we have a growing children's market, we're looking for books in the vernacular. And it's a struggle to find them. So that's something that has to be addressed in some way. And I know there are certain imprints that are doing it. But by and large, children's books are growing at remarkable rates. The Kindle has almost died. In other words, there has been no growth in e-book downloads, either here or elsewhere in Europe or North America for the last 2 years. So we see a reversion to books. We're seeing growth in the market. Strangely, and I was remarking to Zelda about this, we're seeing a growth in the market when everything is doom and gloom in the economy, and I think maybe people are just reprioritizing some of their expenditures.
Maybe load shedding has taught us to read also a little bit.
Well, one good thing at least, so we hope so.
So
It's either reading or sex.
yeah, well, without trivializing it totally. Nelson Mandela was passionate about children, more so than anyone before. Education of children, getting them to read. This week, how do we incorporate his message into Book Week, and how do we bring him alive for young people again this week?
Well, we need to make the books accessible to the children, especially in rural areas. The Nelson Mandela Foundation has got a library drive together with Breadline. They set up container libraries in rural communities. All companies now have that CSI responsibility. They can invest money to bring books to children. Madiba strongly believe that education is the only way we're going to get out of poverty. And I also strongly support such a call that the start of improving education would be to make books accessible to children.
Partnerships, I think in this, you've showed through your business that you have to make a contribution in this space. Are you happy with big business in South Africa, the way that they look at literacy or illiteracy?
Well, I've got to be careful because I have a conflict of interest here. Obviously, if corporations become more involved, we do better, we sell more books. But a key issue here is that if you read, not only do you acquire knowledge, but your verbal and literacy skills improve axiomatically. So reading gives benefits all the time. And what surprises me is that I think the oral tradition, where you sit with your child and even tell them a story, that's also being lost in these numbers. And that too needs to be resuscitated.
Talking about that, illiteracy amongst adults, how do we turn that around? How are we doing enough to get grown-ups to read again?
Ben, I think we all know now that this is the age of the smartphone and the stupid people. People are constantly on their smartphones. We need to tap into that market too, because a lot of people who do not have access to books and libraries have access to smartphones. So we need to find a way of encouraging people through social media networks to get them reading and to get them interested in reading, and not only reading what's happening on social media.
Your closing remarks, sir.
I think that what we do, and what I constantly tell my staff that we do better than most people, is we curate the national taste. We curate what people read, they find in our stores. What we need to do is now create a separate forum of discussion around major issues that affect all of us, that relay into books, where there is a kind of overlapping set.
The common consciousness, it needs to be improved, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Thank you for joining us today, sir. And Zelda, thank you very much for joining us as well. All the best with Book Week. It is, I think, one of the most important weeks of the year. We have to get our children to read, and we have to read to our children, and maybe let them read to us even before we go to bed at night. Time for us now